All right, here spawning at the top right, we have our red Protoss player playing for Dragon Phoenix Gaming. Give it up for ZEST.
And his opponent spawning in the bottom left corner of the map, playing as the blue Zerg for Kaizi Gaming. It is Solar.
Now, speaking of Dragon Phoenix Gaming, we did see them recently play in the finals of World Team League against Team NV. Now, for those of you that have not watched the series yet, I'm not going to spoil it for you guys, the results. But if you guys are interested in watching that, the series there, the World Team League, it's on our YouTube channel. So if you missed it, head on over there and you can catch all the games. But in the meantime, we do have ourselves a Kaizi Gaming versus Dragon Phoenix Gaming series here. And looks like ZEST will go ahead and wait. Did he block the hatchery, or Solar just took the dirt there?
It looks like the probe. I wasn't actually paying attention too hard, but it does look like the drone was sort of blocked by the probe, and so the drone just automatically went for the third base, which is quite common nowadays in these top level Zerg versus Protoss matchups.
Yeah. And it's so I guess common right now that because I was wondering if because it's so common these days that Zerg sometimes just go straight to the normal dirt base in order to plant their natural, and so I was wondering if Solar just went there, just out of habit or something. But
right.
Yeah, I guess I'm assuming ZEST did send out a early probe to block it.
Yeah, that is quite common, and I've noticed, just from personal experience, not necessarily from the pro level meta or anything as inaccessible as that, but I've noticed that we get some cannon rushes at the third location natural Zerg base, and I found that somewhat difficult to hold, because if you try to pull drones against such a far cannon, you're never going to get there in time. So I've been trying to figure out what exactly is the response. Do you just take your other third, especially if they pylon blocked your natural? It becomes so much more difficult to expand as Zerg, and of course as the Zerg you do need to expand quite quickly. So I don't know, I've sort of been mulling that over recently, but that will not be the case here, of course, as we do see ZEST almost finished with his Stargate. So it looks like it's going to be a bit of a macro-oriented opener for both players.
Yeah, and it looks like the Overlord did not commit into the main base. Actually, is flying away here. So looks like he is going to skip the scouting and just kind of use his Ling to scout or to get indication as to what is coming. Looks like the Void Ray will be our first unit out of the Stargate here. And let's see if we can find the Overlord here, kind of tucking away at the right side.
I'm not sure if I like that move, just sort of tucking the Overlord away, because, as the Zerg, you do need a scout ASAP. But of course, Rogue and ZEST, they've probably played each other more times than I've played ladder games, so I'm sure they are well aware of what the other is capable of. But yeah, it does look like ZEST is going to go for actually quite an early third Nexus before the 4-minute mark, and Rogue gets a very nice scout off of that, sees that the Nexus is constructing, so looks like Rogue is, sort of going to be able to make that decision whether or not he wants to drone up hard, as it looks like he is going to make some links to try to, harass a little bit, punish the third base possibly.
Yeah, now do note that ZEST did not plan down a second Stargate. In fact, he went for a Twilight cancel follow-up. And again, because the Overlord was sniped down before it can get a scout, Solar will be in the dark for the time being. And if he isn't careful, he might get greeted with a bunch of Adepts. But interestingly, he actually is researching plus air weapons as well. So I think we might actually see a follow-up to mass air tech after this glaive Adept timing.
Yeah, and like you said, +1 air attack, it sort of shifts the paradigm completely, right? Because all of a sudden you're investing into upgrades, and of course upgrades are a better return on investment the more of that unit that you have. So for now, you know, we just have a couple of Void Rays with a third producing, but these first 2 Void Rays are just gonna, you know, go into the main. Rogue is, of course, ready for it with the Queens in position, as well as some Lings going in, trying to challenge the third floor now. They're not, you know, quite able to get in as the Adepts are in position, but yeah, like you said, Rogue is not really aware that Glaive Adepts are coming, and I have seen these sorts of dual pushes where you've got a bunch of Void Rays coupled with a bunch of Adepts, and you know, it requires a fairly specific response. Now, to be fair, Zerg does have the tools for both. You just need the Queens for anti-air, and then you need, you know, Roaches and or a bunch of Lings and or Banelings to deal with the Adepts. But like you said, if Rogue is not careful, then he might not be ready for it. But wow, very interesting. So it looks like he's going into that Spire attack. What do you think of this, Snoopy?
Yeah, it looks like he is kind of getting an indication that there might be mass air. He's going to go ahead and try to go for Spire, but although he might have wanted to go for Spire in the beginning. But here we go. Solar got a lot of Queens here to defend, but not a lot for the Adepts.
Yeah, now we do see the first few Adepts being shaved off, but already we did also see some Queens going down, and the Queens are left at the third, dealing with the Void Rays as the Adepts are shading into the natural. So we see 9 drones going down, and the Adepts are still here, still doing damage, completing the shade into the main as well, and doing even more damage. So I'm not too sure about this position for Rogue right now. Now we do see Roach is about to pop, but you know, these 3 Void Rays are still up here, they're still doing their damage, and more drones are falling.
Yeah, so far 18, 19. Can we get to 20? Looks like we will. But yeah, Solar is like reeling from all these drone losses. If he's not careful, I mean, yeah, he does have a good significant amount of army, but is all in Roaches, and looks like Solar is going to go completely tap out, won't even bother to try for the counterattack, and GG, ZEST takes a convincing dominant game 1. Spawning at the bottom right, playing for Dragon Phoenix Gaming, yes, ZEST.
Once again, spawning in the top left corner of the map, playing for Kaizi Gaming as the Blue Zerg, down 0-1 right now. Can he pull it back? It is Solar. Yeah, and to sort of continue that line of thought that you were on, Snoopy, I feel like if I were in Rogue's position, I definitely would have done exactly the same thing. Like, I just saw my enemy put down a 350 Nexus. I'm fine, I can drone up to 60 workers or whatever. You know, I don't care. Like, they're probably probing up hard, right? You know? Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, a bunch of Adepts are knocking on my door, and I lose the game, so... Definitely a hard call, and like you said, the scouting is key. You know, just these sorts of fundamentals that we are seeing very excellent demonstrations of why they're so important in this game.
Yeah. By the way, getting word in the chat, guys. Just thank you for letting us know. But it looks like you've been referring to Solar as Rogue instead of Solar. So oops. I mean, it's easy to mix up. They're both Zerg, right? And you know, Rogue is also from Dragon Phoenix Gaming, and ZEST from Dragon Phoenix Gaming as well. But yes, this is indeed Solar. Your eyes do not deceive you guys. So, but yeah, thank you for letting us know. And yeah, looks like we got pretty much the same opener, right? As the last game. Pretty much standard. The same hatch block. And once that cybernetic core is done, we should see if it's going to be another Stargate opening.
Yeah, it looks like Solar's, not Rogue's, but excuse me, Solar's Overlord was going in a little bit deep. Now, ooh, interesting. So the Cybercore did start Warp Gate, but it was immediately canceled. So I'm not too sure what's up there. And it does look like it's going to be a Twilight, so it could be a Stargate fake out for the Overlord Scout.
Yeah, that. I mean, when you don't see a Warp Gate being researched off the bat, that is a good indication that there is a Stargate. But Protoss knows this in their back of their mind, so you know they can kind of sometimes play meta games and kind of fake it out. And indeed, it's actually going to be a Twilight cancel instead of a Stargate. And this is not a bad choice because again, this is a small map, so Glaive Adepts going across the map is going to actually arrive at the Zerg space pretty quickly.
Oh, is this a DT shrine? Yes, it is. I was just about to
Oh,
say, ZEST did have enough gas for Glaive Adepts or, Charge or any. I don't, Blink is not too common against Zerg, but I did see that the gas count was going up. And yeah, we are going to see a DT shrine. So now it is on to Solar to successfully defend against this aggression. So very exciting for game number 2.
yeah.
Oh, and we also see Charge.
What in the world?
Yeah, what is... So, what is this? A sort of 1-2 punch with the DTs and then the Zealots? Or is it going to be the Zealots first? I think it's going to be the DTs first, right? Otherwise, there's no reason to put the DT Shrine down so early. But, yeah, it looks like Solar does have a Spore at the... Just a single Spore at the natural. Not that you need more than that.
Boy, this is kind of reminding me of like this is old school build because usually nowadays you see the protests open up with DTs. They don't follow up with charge. They actually follow up with a third base, a quick third base. So seeing this kind of bring me back into the days. But this is gonna hit hard, very hard indeed. But we do see Solar has eyes on this warp prism, and so it's gonna be a little bit tough to warp in here.
Yeah, now it looks like he will begin the warping of 3 DTs. The third one is a little bit after the first 2, but it looks like Queens are in position. Now, will ZEST commit with these 3 DTs in the main base? It looks like they will be dropped, but there is a Spore in place, and so I don't think these DTs are going to get much done. First DT getting quite low on health, but it is popped out into the Warp Prism quite quickly.
Yeah, but no big deal. He can warp in another DT and morph them into 2 Archons, and then the rest just warp in the charge lot. Now the thing is, he did not pull probes off of gas, so he's not going to have as many charge lot as he wants to off the bat, or at least as many minerals to warp in those charge lot. He's going to have to make do with what he has right now and kind of warp prism micro his Archons here at the front.
That's right. Now it looks like these Archons are going to start doing their damage as well as the first round of Zealots. The Lings are coming in, but not at a surrounding level, so it looks like all of them will be cleaned up. And now the Zealots are pushing forward. A Queen Transfuse does go off, but Queens are starting to fall, and I don't think this is enough Roaches to actually defend against this first wave.
Yeah, this is catching Solar off guard, and hard to blame him because, this build used to be actually pretty easy to defend. Or I guess I wouldn't say pretty easy, but decently easy to defend. But it hasn't been used for so long that, Solar might have actually forgotten how to defend against this. As the meta has changed, of course. And ZEST is gonna be able to, it looks like, and seems so, to move to a 2-0 lead here. Still hasn't quite yet closed out the deal, but this second base natural is pretty much decimated.
No, seriously, and whenever the Protoss is able to get up into the base of the Zerg like that, all of a sudden it becomes so much easier to pick off those rallying units, and GG is called. ZEST goes to a 2-0 lead.
Looks like we're gonna potentially have our last game, unless the Solar has something to say about that. Here on Beckett Industries, spawning at the bottom left, we have our red Protoss player playing and representing the team of Dragon Phoenix Gaming. Make some noise for ZEST.
And his opponent spawning in the top right corner of the map, playing for Kaizi Gaming as the blue Zerg. Can he pull it back? It is Solar.
So we did see, of course, pretty I guess old school build there by ZEST in the last game, and the funny thing is it wasn't as efficient as it could have been. It wasn't as lethal as it could have been, and yet ZEST was still able to pull it off. And what I mean is that when you do that gateway follow up with a massive charge lot, if you want it to be a bit more efficient, usually you will see some pros being pulled off of gas, maybe leave maybe 4 or maybe even 2 probes on gas, while the rest goes into minerals to morph some additional charge lot. But looks like ZEST still wasn't really needing the additional minerals. You still managed to be able to overwhelm Solar, and yeah, this is a great execution, and he is feeling, I would imagine, feeling very comfortable right now.
Yeah, that was definitely a unique way to sort of cement the win, right? Because if you include DTs in the mix, all of a sudden the Zerg's only sort of path out, sort of, path to winning the immediate fight, and this speaks nothing of winning the game, but just trying to fend off the attack from the Protoss. All of a sudden, the Spore Crawlers become that much more essential, and so we saw some excellent target firing from ZEST, sort of being able to, after cleaning up all of the lings and roaches, it was like, okay, well, what do I attack next? The drone's already evac, but I can kill some spores. And then after you kill the spores, the DCs basically have free reign over everything. And so, like you said, that was a very interesting decision to sort of keep that gas production up. But it looks like this game, he's definitely going to need that gas production, as we do see a Stargate about halfway done.
Yeah, he's going back to the Stargate tag here, similar to game number 1. And will we see, the same build, or whether it will be a variation of, of the Stargate opening, as ZEST has so much, builds under his sleeves here. He can pretty much open up with a similar opening, but then kind of branch them off into a variety of branches, basically, of builds. So we will see what ZEST decides to go for. And if Solar can scout this, he does have an Old Lord parked there, being a little bit of a perv here.
Now, I believe that ZEST can see it because it's actually not placed on the pillar, but regardless, that Overlord is actually being sent in. And I do like this decision a lot, just sort of, it's fine, it's one Overlord, and you get a lot of essential information, as we do see the first Void Ray is going to target it down. So at the very, very least, Solar knows that there will be a Void Ray potentially coming across the map.
Yeah, looks like this time around he's actually mixing in the Oracle, and he isn't going for the +1 airs weapons. So he is going to go for more of a kind of traditional Stargate opening. And let's see how much drone kills this Oracle can get. So the idea is that he distracts the Zerg with the Void Ray, and then attacks the drone line with that Oracle, but looks like the Overlord will have eyes on this.
Oh man, and you called it, Snoopy. That Oracle coming in from the back, as the two Queens were too busy dealing with the Void Ray in the front, and able to pick off 5 drones. Am I seeing that correctly? Wow.
Some nice drone kills. Gets away with the Oracle safely as well, and gonna go ahead and start establishing this third base of his.
Now, I do like this sort of ling run by... Actually, the Adept is not between the Pylon and the Nexus, so the Pylon is quite vulnerable. The Adept, of course, is probably going to be fine, tucked into that little sort of corner in the mineral line. But it looks like we're going to see some double Stargate plays, as we do also see that +1 air attack coming out for ZEST.
Oh, really nice. And I would imagine, like, ZEST can probably go into carriers off the bat. Now, he can very much go into Void Rays, and he probably will go into Void Rays, but because Beckett Industries is the shortest map of them all, I mean, I wouldn't even mind if he went for just like straight up into carriers and just, fly across the map here. And there is no lair yet. The lair is gonna finish just in a little bit of a moment here, but it's gonna be, if he goes for carriers, it's gonna just mainly be Queens defending against those interceptors.
Yeah, definitely. And we all know that Queens are great, but carriers are also pretty good in their own right. And so those interceptors can be a pretty big distraction for the Queens, as their DPS is not actually quite that high. And so even against either the carrier or the interceptor, Queens are definitely not the unit that you want in that situation. Now we are going to see this Oracle come in here, try to put down a stasis trap, but the Queens will spot it and they will be able to get the kill. Now it looks like Solar is going to follow up with a Spire immediately after getting that lair, as well as a 4th base. So I do like this from our Zerg, sort of, sniffing out that this Stargate tech is not going to go anywhere anytime soon. Wow, we actually see a 3rd Stargate as well as a Fleet Beacon about to finish up, so you definitely called it. We are going to see some higher level Sky Toss here, just in a moment.
Yeah, gonna stick with Void Rays for the time being, but the Fleet Beacon is gonna be done, and that could give him access to the carriers, or maybe even Tempest, but I'll probably predict that will be carriers instead. But I like this. He's adding more defensive structures here at the third base, knowing that it is a pretty vulnerable area. It is closer to the Zerg's base, so just adding a few more extra defenses there, just in case there is a Queen Walker of some sort.
Yeah, it's a great way to sort of balance your resources as well, because Skytoss is just so gas heavy that oftentimes you have a lot of minerals, and what do? You can put it into charge lots if you want to get a little bit aggressive, but of course, the more traditional route is to put it into defensive structures, and that sort of makes it borderline impossible for the Zerg to break through. Now, it has been done before, and of course there are builds to sort of hard counter this, but we see that that is not going to be the case. Solar is going to sort of defend against these Void Rays with the Queens, and these Void Rays' speed is now finished, so they are going to become a little bit more of a nuisance than Solar might be expecting here.
Oh yeah, but the Corruptors are out here for the Solar, so with the Queens here, this will push back ZEST for the time being. But again, Corruptors gonna be a little bit weaker against the Void Rays, but he is gonna try to probably mix it up with some Vipers later on. But at the meantime, we do see the Overseer barely getting any scouting information, but I think he pretty much knows or kind of sniff out what ZEST is going for. I mean, when you see this many Void Rays with absolutely no ground units, that kind of is a good indicator as to what ZEST is going for.
Yeah, definitely. Now, as you mentioned, we were possibly going to see some Vipers, but in fact, it's going to be the Infestors as the chosen spellcaster for our Blue Zerg here in game number 3. Now, we do see that the energy upgrade is being researched, and 4 Infestors are already on the production tab. So we are headed into the late game, possibly.
Yeah, I mentioned Viper earlier on because usually Void Rays will clump up and you can do throw this Parasitic Bomb to weaken them, but Infestors is also another great tool against Void Rays because the fungal growth also kind of locks them in, which allows the rest of the Zerg army to get on top of them or below them, and so yeah, it's a really great tool as well against air.
Yeah, definitely, and as you say that, we do see a couple of Vipers now on the production tab, so this is definitely looking to be a late game sort of spellcast army centric game here in game number 3. Now, we also see a Greater Spire, so yeah, I think that that is a good move for Solar because, you know, when you're so heavy into Corruptor tech, Spire tech, it's like, what am I gonna make? I'm gonna transition into Hydras? Like, at that point, come on. You need to make use of your Spire, so I do like the Greater Spire choice. Now, it does look like ZEST is posturing just a little bit. These Lings are going to stream forward and pick off a single ground unit, and a good tag is going to scout out the Infestors as well. Now, these Void Rays from the side are, some excellent fungal growth going down on most of the Void Rays, and the Corruptors just are not able to really find an angle to sort of push in. All of the ground for Zerg is down, but there's pretty much nothing left to defend against the Protoss ground as the base does fall.
Yeah, that was a beautiful split, actually, of the Void Rays. I mean, there was still a little bit clump, but at least a lot better as he kind of split it into like 2 to 3 groups there. And it did minimize the fungo splash, and that's it. ZEST with a dominant 3-0 sweep here. Solar just wasn't his day.